Good morning, students. Welcome to the Digital Classroom of Science and Technology Part 2. Dear students, we have already started with lesson number 2, Life Processes in Living Organisms. And today also we are going to continue with the same lesson. So let's start. Reproduction in multicellular organisms. Multicellular means the organism is made up of more than one cell. The earlier asexual we had studied in unicellular organisms, where the organism is made up of just one single cell. So let's start with the asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms. In total, there are 5 methods of asexual reproduction. The very first one is fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, and the last one is spore formation. Okay, so these are the different methods of asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms or in higher organisms. Then let's start with the first one, fragmentation. Fragmentation has come from the word fragments, or the small parts or pieces or segments. So here the organisms divide into number of parts or number of fragments, and each fragment develops as an individual organism. And the examples in which the fragmentation takes place is Spirogyra, which is an alga, and the second one is sponge, Cycon sponge specifically. So in Spirogyra, you know that the body is ribbon shaped, right? So this Spirogyra divides or breaks up into many segments or many fragments, and then each fragment develops into an independent new organism. Similarly, it happens in Cycon sponge also. If accidentally the sponge, the cycon, breaks up into pieces, then each part splits and each part develops into a new organism. So this process of reproduction is called as fragmentation, and the examples as I had shown you are Spirogyra and sponge, specifically Cycon. Second one is regeneration. Now it is made up of 2 words, re and generate. Re means again and generate means to produce. To produce a particular part of the body once again, or the organism divides into 2 and each part develops into a new organism. Now the first we will study about limited regeneration, which here you can see the slide of the lizard. It's a variety of lizard. If the tail gets separated or if the tail breaks up from the body, after some time a new tail develops. That is the part of the tail which was separated from the body, it develops, and again the lizard has its full tail. Now this is called as limited regeneration because it takes part in the part of a cell. This you might have seen in your houses also. We have wall lizards. Okay, they belong to the same species. So if the part of the lizard tail it's separated or it breaks off, then after some time that part again develops the broken part of the tail. Second one is the example of planaria. Planaria is an animal, and this planaria, when it regenerates, it breaks up into 2 parts. The upper one is anterior and the lower one is posterior, and it develops into a new organism. The upper anterior part develops the posterior part, and the posterior part of the body develops the anterior part, and thus they become a new organism. So this process is called as regeneration. Okay. The third process is called as budding. Budding takes place by the repeated divisions of regenerative cells. The cells, they go on dividing and they form a bulging structure on the outer surface of the body, and outgrowth can be seen, and this outgrowth is called as a bud. As you can see in the picture, in the first one, parent hydra, you can see the bulging or the outgrowth on the surface of the body. In the second one, you can see that a small hydra can be seen. Now what happens when this outgrowth is formed? The dermal layers, we had studied in classification of animals that hydra belongs to Coelenterata, or they are also called as cnidarians. So they are diploblastic. Now it is just your revision, students. Diploblastic means di means two. So they have two dermal layers, ectoderm and endoderm. And they are acoelomate, that means A means absent, coelom means body cavity. So the body cavity is actually absent, but they have a body cavity which is a false body cavity, and thus it is called as acoelomate. So this body cavity and the dermal layers, they are continuous with this bud in the beginning. Then slowly this bud matures and it gets detached from the hydra once it is mature, and then this hydra transfers into a new independent hydra. So this is how the process of budding takes place in hydra. So fourth one is vegetative propagation or vegetative reproduction. Children, you remember we had studied that the plant can be divided into mainly two parts, reproductive part and vegetative part. Reproductive part is the flower of the plant, which is actually the reproductive part which contains the male and female reproductive parts. Whereas the remaining parts of the plant, that is root, stem, leaf, these are called as the vegetative parts of the plant. Now generally the reproduction takes place by the reproductive part, that is flower. But in some plants, the vegetative parts also play the role of reproduction in the plant, right? Now these vegetative parts are root, stem and leaf. So why they are called as vegetative reproduction? Because the vegetative parts of the plant, that are root, stem, leaf, they participate in the reproduction. They give rise to a new organism or a new plant. And here the very first one is root. So very first part of vegetative propagation is the root. Now the root vegetative propagation takes place in the roots, underground roots especially, like carrot, radish, sweet potato, right? These are all underground roots and they are modified for the storage of the food, right? The food is stored in these roots, they are modified. Now the roots, they develop buds on their outer surface, and when we have to sow sweet potato or radish, how we sow? We don't have seeds of these plants, right? Now these fruits, whether it is carrot or radish or sweet potato, they are sprouted. The buds grow on the surface of the fruit or vegetable, and then they are cut into smaller pieces, and each piece having a bud is sown in the soil, and then from these buds the new plants come up. Okay, so such type of reproduction is called as root vegetative propagation. Next is leaf. Now leaf vegetative propagation means the new plant is formed from the leaf. Students, the example of this is bryophyllum, and I think in Marathi it is called as pard footy. Pard, I think, is for leaf, and footy means it gives rise to new plants. As you can see in the picture, the leaf, bryophyllum leaf, it is very fleshy and it is having thick lamina. And on the lamina, the surface of the lamina, on the edges of the lamina, there are notches present. And in these notches, very small buds, they grow, which are called as adventitious buds actually. And when this leaf falls on the soil and it gets favorable conditions, this bud grows into a new plant. We have this plant in our science garden, and we have the specimen of this leaf in our lab also. So once the school reopens, you are in the school, we are definitely going to the lab, and we will try to visit our garden also, and we will see it. Okay. Then the next one is stem. Now this is the very common. Nowadays the rainy season is going on. It's very common. See, potato is a vegetable which is generally, stored in the house, right? And if it is kept for more than 3 to 4 days, and especially during rainy season, even on the third day, we can see that buds start growing on the potato, right? These are also called as eyes. So do you know how the potatoes are sown? We don't have the seeds of potatoes, right? So the potato is allowed to sprout for few days, and when these buds, they come out, then the potato is cut into smaller pieces, and the condition is that each piece should have a bud, and then they are sown in the soil, and then these buds, when they get the favorable conditions, they give rise to a new plant. Similar is the case with the sugarcane also. In sugarcane, you might have seen that the nodes are there, and on the nodes the buds are found. You can see in the picture also, students. So when the sugarcane is to be sown, again it is also cut into pieces, but again the condition is that each node or each piece should have a bud, and when it is sown in the soil, on the arrival of favorable conditions, these buds, they give rise to a new plant. So this is all about the vegetative propagation in plants, which takes place with the help of the root, stem, leaf and the buds. The next vegetative propagation is spore formation. Now this spore formation takes place in many of the fungi. Generally it takes place in the non-flowering plants, the plants which do not produce flowers. Students, again just to revise, in our 9th standard we had studied the classification of plants, and we had studied that plant kingdom is divided into two main groups, cryptogams and phanerogams. Cryptogams are non-flowering plants, whereas phanerogams are flowering plants. So those cryptogams, those non-flowering plants, generally they reproduce by the method of the spore formation, because there the reproductive part of the plant is not there, the flower is not there, they don't have the flowers, right? So the vegetative part of the plant, it reproduces and gives rise to the new plants. So nowadays, as the rainy season is going on, the climate is very humid, and if you keep a piece of chapati or bread or bhakri for 2-3 days in open, after 2-3 days you will see that greyish yellow colored spongy substance is formed on the bread or the eatable item. What is that? That is nothing but the fungus, which is called as mucus. Mucus has a filamentous body, and at the top of the upper filament a bulging structure takes place, which is called as sporangium. It is called as sporangium because it contains the spores. Now the nucleus is present in the sporangium, and this nucleus divides and redivides into n numbers of spores. Now when the sporangium matures, it ruptures and the spores are released, and each spore under favorable condition gives rise to a new plant. Okay, so this is called as spore formation. Now the next main topic is sexual reproduction. Till now we were studying about the asexual reproduction, and in that also we had studied asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms, that is the organisms which are made up of just one single cell, and then we had studied about the asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms, right? Now we will start with the sexual reproduction. Now the main difference, this I think I had told you in the beginning also, main difference between asexual and sexual reproduction is that in asexual reproduction only one parent is required, whereas in sexual reproduction two parents are required, because the fusion of male and female gamete takes place, right? So that is the major difference between the asexual and sexual reproduction. Second is that in asexual reproduction takes place by mitosis, that is the number of chromosomes remains the same, whereas in sexual reproduction meiosis is the main process where the number of chromosomes becomes half. Okay, so let's start with the sexual reproduction. Now in sexual reproduction, two germ cells are the most important cells, that is one female gamete and the second one is male gamete, right? Female gamete is formed in the female organism and male gamete is formed in the male organism. Okay, now gamete formation, as I told you, takes place by the process of meiosis. Why by the process of meiosis? Why not mitosis? Because in meiosis the number of chromosomes becomes half, that is haploid, and in mitosis the number of chromosomes remains the same, that is they remain diploid. Now here, as I told you, in sexual reproduction the female and male gametes, they unite, right, and then they produce the new organism. So when they are forming the new organism should have the diploid number of chromosomes, right? Now when the fusion is taking place, if the gametes are not having haploid number of chromosomes, and when they will unite, they will form the tetraploid zygote, right? That is why the germ cells, they undergo meiosis, that is the number of chromosomes becomes half. Now see in the first one how the gamete formation takes place. Now suppose male father and female father, we know that they have 23 pairs of chromosomes or total 46 chromosomes. So when meiosis takes place, the sperms, they have 23 chromosomes and mother also 46. The number of chromosomes becomes half, and mainly the male female gamete contains 23 chromosomes. Similarly, in case of male, the male gamete, that is sperm, also contains 23 chromosomes. Just to revise, students, see now in the process of gamete formation, 46 is dividing into 23, that is here the meiosis is taking place. And then from 23 those 4 sperms are formed, they are having same number of chromosomes. We had studied mitosis and meiosis in detail in the previous lesson. So we had seen that meiosis takes place in 2 steps. First one is meiosis 1, where 46 is dividing and forming 2 cells which contain 23 chromosomes, and then second meiosis, that is nothing, that is second division, it is nothing but the mitosis, right? And that is why the number of chromosomes can be seen same in the 4 gametes. Okay, I hope you have understood. Then the second important process in sexual reproduction is fertilization. Now, as I told you, in fertilization, the male and female gamete, they unite together and they form a single celled zygote, right? Now, due to this, the new individual has the new combination of genetic characters, right? Because we had studied in meiosis that crossing over takes place, in which the parts of chromosomes of the homologous pairs, they are exchanged, and thus the new characters takes place, which are called as variations. Variations are only seen in the meiosis. They are not seen in the mitosis, because in mitosis there is no crossing over taking place. Okay. Then we will start with the sexual reproduction in plants. First we will start with the plants, and of course we are going to study the sexual reproduction in human beings also. So, to study the sexual reproduction in the plants, we had just now revised that flower is the reproductive part of the plant. Now, first we will just go through the parts of the flower. Now, there are mainly 4 whorls in the flower. The outermost is called as calyx. Then comes the second whorl, corolla. Then comes the androecium. And the last one is gynoecium. Now, out of these 4 whorls, the 2 outer one, calyx and corolla, are the accessory whorls, whereas androecium and gynoecium are called as essential whorls. Why? Because the main part of reproduction, it takes place in the essential whorls, that is androecium and gynoecium. In the flower, you can very clearly see the outermost first whorl is calyx, and it is made up of sepals. Inner to calyx is corolla, which is made up of colorful petals. Then comes the stamens, which are the androecium, or which are the male reproductive part. And then the innermost is the female reproductive part, or gynoecium, and its single unit is called as carpel or pistil. At the base of the flower, students, you can see pedicel. Now, pedicel is the stalk-like structure with the help of which the flower is attached on the stem. Okay, so this is called as pedicel. Okay, so this is the structure of the flower and the 4 whorls of the flower. Now, students, the flowers, as I explained you, it has 4 whorls. Now, it is not necessary that all the flowers have all these 4 whorls. Now, the main reproductive part, that is androecium and gynoecium, they both may be present in the same flower, or they may be present separately in 2 different flowers. Now, you can see 2 different flowers on the screen. The first one is hibiscus and second one is the papaya flower. Now, in hibiscus, the androecium and gynoecium both are present. That is, male and female reproductive part both are present in the same flower, and thus such flowers are called as bisexual flowers. That means they are having both the sexual parts, that is both the reproductive parts. And in papaya, you can see it is female flower or the male flower. So in papaya plant, there are 2 types of flowers. Female flowers which have calyx, corolla and the gynoecium, whereas male flowers, they have calyx, corolla and androecium, right? And such flowers are called as unisexual flowers. Uni means 1. So they are having only 1 sexual part, that is either androecium or gynoecium. And on the basis of this androecium or gynoecium, they are called as male flowers or female flowers. Male flower has only androecium and female flower has only gynoecium, right? If you remember, we had studied the classification of animals, and there also we had studied that the animals are either unisexual or bisexual. Either they have both the reproductive organs, both the gonads, male and female, like earthworm. Remember, earthworm, they are called as bisexual animals, or they are also called as hermaphrodites. Whereas human beings, dog, cat, all these are unisexual animals because they have either male or female reproductive part. So now students, in the previous slide we had seen the hibiscus flower and I had shown you the pedicel. Pedicel is a small structure which is present just below the ovary of the flower or just below the flower, and it is a stalk-like structure which joins the flower with the stem. It is a like petiole of the leaf. It attaches the leaf to the stem. Similarly, the stalk of the flower is called as the pedicel, and the flowers which have pedicel are called as pedicellate. In some flowers, this pedicel is absent and directly the flowers are attached on the stem. Such flowers are called as sessile. So, on the basis of the presence of pedicel, the flowers are divided into two types: pedicellate flowers or the sessile flowers. Now, I just now told you that there are two important processes in sexual reproduction. First one is gamete formation, and the second one is fertilization. Now, there is a process called as pollination which takes place before fertilization. Without pollination, fertilization cannot take place. Now, what is pollination? Of course, it's not a new word for you. We had studied about it in the lower classes. Pollination is the process of transfer of pollen grains from the stamen to the stigma. Right? So, stamen is the male reproductive part which has the pollen sacs, and inside the pollen sacs, the pollen grains are present. And androecium pistil is the female reproductive part which carries the ovule or the female gamete. Now, the pollen grains which carry the male gamete, they have to reach the female gamete, and they reach to the female gamete by the process of pollination. So, the transfer of pollen grains from the stamen to the stigma is called as pollination. And pollination is of two types. It is self-pollination and cross-pollination. If the pollen grains of a flower are transferred to the stigma of the same flower, then it is called as self-pollination. Whereas, if the pollen grains of one flower is transferred to the stigma of another flower, whether on the same plant or on the different plant, is called as cross-pollination. And the process of pollination takes place by the medium of air, water, insects and animals. So, pollination is very important, which takes place before the fertilization. So students, it's almost time up. Next time we are going to start with the fertilization in flower. Thank you. See you next time.